Okay, good. So my name is Adrien, and as you can see on the title, I'm going to be talking about creating new solutions for film scanning. Film scanning is important. We will have talks about cameras, we will have talk about developing, and the final step usually is scanning for most people. So this is a topic I've been focusing on for the past months or so, and I've been researching it, so you can feel free to get in touch with me by email or Instagram if you have any cues, any questions, I'll be happy to answer. So let's crack on. So first off, starting off with the basics, why do we need to scan film at all, after all? The main use, two main users, so labs, individuals, they have very different goals. Labs need stuff to be very high quality, to go very fast. Individuals can be okay with a bit less quality, and they can be okay with dealing with a bit more time. Usually they're fine with it. Obtaining digital copies of negatives. This is important because otherwise you only have the negative, the physical negative. The only thing you can do with it is look at it or print it with an enlarger, and that's basically it. Archiving old film is a very important topic too. I'm not going to delve too much into it. Usually it's pretty different machines than the ones used in labs or individuals for museums and stuff. Otherwise it's mostly people who found old slides and family photos that just want to scan them, to see them. Sharing on social media. Today, shooting film is a statement. That was important because it's one of the pillars, I'd say, of the film community today. People shoot film for a reason because they want to experience it, they want to do things differently, and in the end they want to show that they're doing it differently. So it's a statement because they do this differently. It's also very widely used for branding for brands, so that's pretty cool. And then for prints, nowadays, if you ever get prints done at your lab, those prints are prints made from scans that haven't been enlarged or anything, just made from scans. So I'm going to talk about, just introduce you briefly to the four current types of scanners I'd say that I could identify. Entry level, don't buy it, it's shit. It's very bad. It's going to last 2 months and it's going to break. Amateur, prosumer, those range from pretty affordable to pretty expensive. Usually they're okay for most people. The results are really good, like decent. Lab scanner, they are made for speed, for high quality. They are pretty much workhorses. They do one thing and they do it really well. Pre-press and drum scanners, now this is a completely old, different beast. This is made for the absolute most quality you can possibly get. So it's very niche, it's very expensive to run. Like one drum scan can cost upwards to $200 at some places. But it's pretty much the best you can get ever. So I'm going to focus on those ones mainly for amateur and lab scanners because I feel like those are the two that need the most development today. So one question you might ask is, why is it not good enough, first off, if it's working now? One of the first reasons is it's freaking old. It's like old as in 2000s. The scanners that labs use currently were made around 2004 or something. So we're talking beige plastic and Windows XP basically, and you're stuck with it because the drivers don't exist for more modern computers. The technology is aging, so it's becoming very hard to service. Usually labs run on, they rely on old stock, and once the stock has run out, then the scanner is basically useless. Ease of use, as I said, is very old tech. So the computers are very old, they're not very powerful. Basically, it's just a pain to use. But then, even talking about the quality, some stuff, there's just nothing better at the moment because the production stopped pretty much 15 years ago and nothing has been made at all. So nothing exists very much now. Now onto consumer scanners. They're just okay for most people. They're pretty slow. It's pretty hard to get sharp images unless you tweak it a bit, and then it can be really good. The color size is not as good as lab scans usually because you have to be a trained technician to get those, so it's pretty normal, let's say. So how can we solve this? How can we make scanning better? Usually with engineering, we have something, we have this triangle. It can be either good, cheap, fast, pick two, usually. You can have 3 at a time. You have to pick 2. When it comes to scanners, I'd say I'm pretty confident we don't have to pick 2. We can have both. So first off, I'm going to start about the consumers, like individuals, what they might want to do for scanning, just to replace the big old clunky scanners and get a better picture. So DSLR scanning is a technique that's been going on for a few years now. It's just been developing and getting better. So the basic idea is you take a macro picture of backlit negative with your DSLR, so you don't have to buy anything new, and then you invert the colors in software, so that's it. So why is it good? It's good because it's cheap. Usually you already, like film photographers already have the digital stuff, so they are pretty much set to go. You need tripod, lens, camera, that's it. The image quality is great because you have the whole raw workflow. So you keep all the details. The image is super sharp because digital cameras are usually better sensors than the old sensors from the lab scans even. You have great control over the colors in software. That's if you want to do it, because sometimes it can be a pain to adjust the colors. It's fast. I mean, capturing a picture is super fast. It's basically one click. When with the scanner, you have to wait like 2-3 minutes before you even get a scan to see what it looks like. So it's pretty fast. Challenges, it's tricky to set up right. Most people just start off with a tripod and then they try to position the camera somewhere, and it's just not very convenient. It's just not very good because you have to make sure the camera is absolutely level with the film, so you get everything super sharp, and it's a pain to use. Film flatness is another issue because, of course, you want to be focusing on the film and you want everything to be in focus. Inversion is still tricky. Software is somehow not as good as it was 20 years ago to get the colors right, so there's room for improvement here. Okay, so now on to addressing those challenges. Very quickly, the setup. Usually people start with the tripod, then they realize it's not very good. They move on to a copy stand, which is very good, but very expensive, or slide duplicator. This is an old accessory that was made to basically duplicate slides. So that's pretty much what it was meant for. This is a prototype I've been working on that basically you just take your camera, you slap the lens there, it's level automatically. You don't have to do anything. You can adjust it. It's very ghetto. It's made out of Lego, but you can adjust it pretty easily, so it works. If it works, it's not stupid, I guess. Film flatness is important. There's some solutions that digitally is about lomography. Negative supply MK1 is a very recent one, and they did a good job apparently. DIY holders, like you will find people in the community usually DIY stuff out of cardboard, so it's not very good, but it works. Now, color is the tricky one. There's some options. None is very optimal. The first option is to adjust the curves manually in software, which is a pain. If you've ever used curves in Photoshop, then it's the same, but you have to tweak every color right, and it takes forever, and you never get the results you're looking for. I mean, that's in my experience at least. You can get dedicated software and plugins. Now, this is getting better. There's Negative Lab Pro for Lightroom, which is really good. This is what I use. It gets the colors pretty much right, and then you can work on it, and it does 90% of the job for you. Color Perfect for Photoshop is a bit older. Capture One plugins are coming soon because they opened their plugin stuff. So very quickly, for conclusion, DSLR scanning is fast, it's cheap, provided you already have the stuff. It's good. The results are really good if you invest the time in it. The workflow is good for individuals and small labs. I know of small labs that don't have the money to buy a film scanner, so they just do it, and the results are just as good, basically. The new products are in development to improve the experience, so it's always going to get better. Now, moving on to pro scanners for labs. This is the other area I'm going to focus on and start working actually on it and try to make a new one. What they need, their needs are very different. They need to be fast with a great workflow. They need great image quality, accurate colors. They need to be very reliable because it's basically going to run 7 days a week, so there's no room for interruption. It has to be compatible with modern computers because that has been a pain historically. Labs are stuck now with computers from 2004, so it's not a very enjoyable experience. Automation is another big deal because right now, the scanners are just a pain to use. You have to use basically like 3 computers to do one thing. So if you can package everything into one software, then it's going to be great. So technical goals for my personal project would be 20 to 30 megapixels lossless scans. The Noritsus from 2000 can go up to 24, but they have to interpolate and do weird magic with it, so it's not native. Now, this would be native because we're in 2019, so there's room for this. Maximum sharpness, dynamic range, minimal noise. Old scanners are good, but they're very noisy. The image is not the sharpest it can be. Great colors, this is one of the tricky ones, especially if I can ask for help for anything. It would be old engineers that used to work at Kodak or Fuji. Just get some help for how to get the colors right, basically. Ability to scan a roll in 3 minutes or less. This is very important for productivity for the labs. Straightforward software. In the end, the very good thing would be to be able to have one software to do the capture, retouching, sending the files over to the clients. And then multi-format, because we've seen new formats emerging since they were made, and pro scanners are just unable to do this. For example, sprocket photography is very popular now. You just have the edges of the film showing, and no scanners can do it at the moment. Special weird formats too. So, like the question that comes up is, if they could do it well in the 2000s, then surely we can do it better 20 years later, right? Well, the answer is no, not as simple. Truth is, it's pretty hard because at the time we're talking about Kodak and Fuji, where they were super big companies, so it was pretty easy for them to do this. If you're some guy doing it, then it's pretty hard. So we're nearing the end here. So these are the challenges, solutions I've come across when trying to develop this. Money for prototypes. Money is tight, and pretty much every part is super expensive. So there has to be some money to do it. Time, of course. Know-how, research. This is mostly going to be about the community getting together and finding the right people that know how this stuff works to actually get it working again. Guaranteeing reliability, serviceability, very important. Again, you have to make sure there are parts that exist and can be changed pretty easily and that are not going to break all the time. Solutions, very simple. Simplify the design. If you make it super simple, then nothing can go wrong, basically. Use good available off-the-shelf components because they're good and they're available, so might as well use them. Learn from the original developers, again, asking from the community. Test extensively. This is going to be a good one, a very important one. Making sure we have a partner lab and testing pretty much every step with them to ensure the quality is up to what they are expecting from an actual lab scanner. So, in conclusion, what would a new lab scanner bring to the table? It would be basically the same, but better and more modern. The image quality would be better. The workflow would be much better. More formats, updated components, better, easier to replace. So everything is good, and everything looks great for this, I guess. So thanks for listening, and I would like to keep the conversation going. So it's going to keep going in the comments here, probably in Reddit, in the latest thread. You can feel free to shoot me an email anytime. Follow me on Instagram. I post cool pictures, I guess. And thanks. I'll see you.
Questions? There might be. Have you tested with because obviously you need a macro lens, or have you tested with spacers on a kit lens, or?
So what I'm currently using is, for my film, personally, I'm scanning with my camera. So I got a one-to-one macro lens essentially, so I don't have to use spacers. Spacers are nice if you don't have a dedicated micro lens. Just have to make sure the edges are not too soft because those lenses were not meant for this compared to macro lens. But it's a very viable solution.
Low budget
Yeah.
solution.
Yeah.
What would you say if someone just now wants to start scanning by themselves, not in a lab? What would you? I mean, you're biased maybe to the DSLR.
Yeah.
But is that like, if someone doesn't have a camera, it's 800 euros or something?
Yeah. So if you don't have a camera, I'd say just get a good Epson scanner, just like V55, it was like 550 or 600. They can be pretty cheap, like for 150 to 250 euros. You can get them used and they're just as good as new. This will get you like 80% as good results as you would get from a lab scan, given you learn how to get the colors right. So if anyone is new to scanning their own film and they don't have a digital camera, I'd say go for an Epson scanner. Everyone's using them, and there's a reason for this.